Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and as part of our efforts to support play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, and there's almost 300 of them that are free to you. And you can find all of them if you go to our website at ipausa.org. Up in that top right-hand corner is our social media links. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can be a friend on our, what do we do? We are friend us on Facebook and then follow us on Instagram. That's it. And then you can also find us on Spotify. So all of the Porch Play Chats are being uploaded so that you can listen to them as podcasts as well. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch today is Reshaun Webb. Reshaun, so nice to meet you. We've had lots of conversations, but I've missed her. So Reshaun has 26 years of experience working in early childhood education, and she's a childcare business owner, podcast host, trainer, and coach. And her love for early childhood shows in her Circle Time Live that she occasionally does with the children in her program. And so Reshaun's going to talk us about tips for creating engaging play spaces at home or school.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what are some key elements that you consider when designing a split play space for young children? What do we need to think about?
I think first of all, let me just say, Miss Deb, I am so thankful to be here with you. You are like my play idol. Catherine O'Brien and I talk about you often, and she introduced me to you. And so I was like, I have got to meet her. I want to be like her when I grow. I tell that to a lot of people because I have a lot of people that I look up to that are safe. So, but so I appreciate you. But for me, it all started when COVID hit. And I went to school. I got my master's, got my bachelor's in early childhood. I knew all that, learned all the scientific formulas of everything that they teach us, which some of it you have to experience in the classroom. And so when COVID hit, I saw the nation panic. I saw parents panic and pretty much left the kids to themselves. And the kids were, the children are just kind of like, where their parents tell them go, put the mask on, don't put the mask on. And, they're not cognizant of what's really happening. And so to me, I saw the children being left in the dust, so to speak. And so, I was like, my whole philosophy changed completely. And it became, what does the child need? What does the child want? In that moment, what does that look like with a safe space? And contrary to what, and I don't tell this to a lot of people, but we started dancing on tables with the teachers around the kids. We just started, just doing all kind of random things that some would look down on, but it was a playful space and a helpful space for the kids at that moment to express themselves, to get out their wiggles and their sillies in an environment where they felt safe. So my first nugget would be create a space that is safe. And I don't mean, with the plugs out or cords. I don't mean that. I mean a space where this child can be a child. When COVID hit, my whole focus changed. And I'm like, okay, how do I allow this child? How do I create a space for this child to be a child? We ruled out technology. We took out anything technology related. And as I learned on my play journey, we took out things that dealt with batteries, right? Because it's only one dimensional. So then we started creating spaces of art where it's color, it's paint, it's matte pencils, it's pudding, it's Play-Doh, it's putty, it's sand, it's all these different things. And they choose what they want. Why? We created a space that is safe. Mm-hmm. So in that space, we're mindful of it's going to get messy, where that's the child's work. Mm-hmm. It's going to look like, ooh, I got to clean this up, but it's their creative brain flowing. So we created a safe space that allowed that child to use their creativity and let it flow. We didn't put pre-made activities out. for them to model, we let them create it. And we sat and used that time in that safe space to talk about, what did you create? Versus, do you like what I created? And I'm like, well, no, why don't you tell me what you, so I allowed the child to tell me. I could easily tell what it was or what I thought it was, but it would deflate what their intentions were. And I never, ever, my philosophy is I never want to stifle a child's creativity. I'm not supposed to understand it. I'm not a child. So I let the child create in that safe space. I let them create and I let them tell me what they created.
Which I think is the gift every child deserves, right?
Absolutely.
When we think back to everything that you sort of switched around, and
Yeah.
I love you in particular for getting rid of all the technology, because that's not how we learn.
Right.
But in creating a safe space for kids, then children can be who they are, where they are at
Yeah.
that particular moment.
Absolutely.
And they can follow that sort of internal drive that tells them, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. Instead of the teacher saying, you're going to do this and you're going to do that.
Yes.
Just think of the agency of the child being able to control what's sort of some, we had in my preschool programs, and when I was a kindergarten teacher, there were times where I controlled and times where children controlled. It was this balance that most of the time children were in control.
Yeah.
And it, I think sometimes we think, oh no, we have to structure every single moment of the day, when that is the last thing they need you to do.
Absolutely.
You need to be following their interests, not expecting them to follow yours, because then they get the skills that they need to be ready to follow an adult's interests.
Absolutely. And that scares a lot of people.
It does.
We have so many rules and boundaries, and you can see on the child's face, because it's like, okay, you're stifling this by this creative brain. And so for my program, we are play-based. And so we open up the play, as soon as after snack and after we've done our circle time live, we let them go. And we've created pockets of development throughout the play where it focuses on certain milestones, right? We just don't want to dismiss all of what we've learned, but we allow each learning zone or each center, if you will, develop certain things in the child. And because all of our children, I can't think of the term right now, but I know it's based on Lev Vygotsky, all of the children are combined, they're in the same space. And so they're helping one another. And I'm watching
of proximal development.
Yes, I'm watching, thank you, because I'm like, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm watching them be accountable to one another. And this is on their own. I'm watching them. What did Mama Sean say? Because they call me Mama Sean. What did Mama Sean say? Mama Sean said. So I'm watching this happen, and the kids are taking it home, and their parents are shocked at how responsible my 2s and 3s are, how responsible my 4s and 5s are. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They don't do this at home? Because we created a safe space of respect and a safe space where they can be a kid. And we learn a lot of things in play, as you are fully aware.
So much. And I think one of the things that, I always think back to my children, and I have 2 biological and 1 adopted child. And then my husband has 3 children. So I have 3 stepchildren. But I always think back to, me as a new parent without any early childhood education, but someone who had played forever, right? All through childhood. And I remember saying, oh, I wonder when they will. Oh, I wonder when they will. Oh, I wonder when they, so I have to acknowledge that as someone that's like, I was so proud that my 6-month-old was in 12-month-old clothing. Well, those clothing sizes haven't changed in 40 years. So, and we are bigger than we used to be, right? And so oh, I wonder when, oh, what can I do to get them to the next thing? Was such a focus, because there was so much pressure around parents that other children's children were talking, by 14 months old, and my child wasn't. And
Yeah.
but I will say that when we were in Germany
Mhm.
for 3 years, when Rod was 6 months old, and in Germany, if you're an American, you cannot work on the German economy. So I was a stay-at-home mom, and and I had brought stuff with me. So I brought children's books with me, and I knew how to play with shaving cream and how to make silly
Right.
putty. I don't know how I did that, but I knew that he needed that. And
Right.
Rod and I would sit and talk, and we'd sing and we'd read and we'd play all the time. And then I recognized that Rod's development was different
Mhm.
than the other one of the other children that was his age
Mhm.
in the same space, that because we
Mhm.
all worked with each other since we were all single moms that were could only stay at home. um and I began to appreciate
Yeah.
his development and not compare him to other people. But boy,
And-
that took a while, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And to follow what he was interested in doing,
Mhm.
even if it was loud. Like he would want to, we lived in a small apartment in military housing, which was, you had 6 apartments in one stairwell, and there were 3 stairwells. So there were 18 families in there. And so the kitchen, in Europe,
Huh.
the fridge is like this big, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
right? Little tiny. And
Yeah.
but it was wonderful because you went to the market every day and bought fresh vegetables, or went to the market and bought your meat for that night. So it was lovely. It was a wonderful lifestyle. But the kitchen was tiny, and Rod, of course, would want to be in the kitchen with me when I was trying to cook. And so that I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's dangerous. So I figured out that I could give him a cupboard that had all the Tupperware in it that was
Uh-huh.
away from the stove, and I could give him wooden spoons, and he was so happy. And he could play there on the floor and be near me,
Yeah.
not but and be safe. And
Yeah.
you know what he did with those wooden spoons is he would drum with them. And guess what instrument he played in high school?
The drums.
He was a drummer. And so, he's less than a year old. He's 9 months
Yeah.
old, crawling around. And and that sort of stayed with him. And I didn't care if
Yeah.
he was banging on the pots and pans and all
Yes.
these things. And, and so, because that's what he was interested in. So it's amazing how sometimes we want them to hurry up and roll over, and we want them to hurry up and walk. And then once they start walking, we're like, oh
Yes.
God,
I
why
think
them to do that? And so I think sometimes parents just need to.
yes, just slow it down a little bit because and in this, especially the children now, right? This is a different generation of children post COVID. And so, parents they don't take the time to sit and look at those moments like you did.
Mhm.
And so I'm thankful that for my program, we're quick to, hey, we might catch them walking or crawling. We're going to catch that moment for you in real time. We're going to share it on Facebook and we're going to send it to you
Mhm.
because, in their pace of and their busyness of working and, they feel guilty about not being able to be that parent. They
Mhm.
miss those moments. And we always, that's one of our taglines is about making those moments. We make those moments. We create that environment where we make moments. We have dance parties. I mean, I just need a disco ball and we're good, or some strobe lights and we're good to go. It's a club for babies. That's the whole point of my program. But we have caught so many moments and the parents were just like, oh my gosh. And they were appreciative. They did not feel guilty, right? Because I didn't want them to feel guilty for
No.
working. Don't feel guilty for providing. That's why you have us. We're catching those moments in real time for you, and you can have them on your phone. No one needs to know where they came from. Just know that we caught that moment for you, and it's yours forever. So we strive, and we make that part of our mission and part of our onboarding is we capture those moments for you because we know that you can.
And isn't that
Yes.
beautiful?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
and think about the relationship already that parents are saying, oh, I'm not going to miss it. They're not going to make me feel guilty because I
Right.
missed it. They're
Absolutely.
going to share it with me. And they're not going to say, oh, they walked at our program. They're going to let me talk about, let me show you the video of when they walked the
Yes.
first time.
Absolutely.
That, Reshaun, that is such a
Mm,
wonderful way for parents to not feel guilty about
absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
what they need to do.
Yeah. And we let them, we've created and I have a good relationship with all of my parents, and we're so involved and invested with them. And so we let them know, like, hey, whatever you can't do, we'll do. Like, don't even worry about it. You create that moment how you want to. We're thankful that you allowed your child to be here so we can capture that for you. We almost equated to taking the load off, right? Because they're so busy, like, I need you to say, Mom, I need you to walk. And when are you going to walk? When are you going to, when it happens in an environment where everyone else is doing it, that child is bound to stand up because my friend is standing up. And if I want that toy like my friend, I'm going to go and get that toy. So we're like, we got the camera ready just in case little Johnny takes that half a step or something. And we're like, boom. And so for me, that just makes my heart feel so good that I was able to share it and capture it. And I'm quick to get it off my hands because I'm like, I want them to see it before, another milestone hits.
What I think is so beautiful about family childcare, and I say this to people all the time, is that you have opportunities for Vygotskian moments, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Because the little infant is watching the young toddlers up and moving around, and they're
Yeah.
watching the older infants pull
Yep.
themselves up, and they're learning from their peers. It's
Yeah.
just
And
beautiful.
a lot of people frown on that, right? Because we've got ones, twos, threes, fours, and all, which is good. But I'm glad that my program is small. Our capacity is 22, and I'm glad for that. I've done the big programs, but here that child gets a one-on-one, and our parents will say, "Oh, they are spoiled. My kids are spoiled," but they know. If you were to walk in with me on Monday, I guarantee you the kids are going to run up, Mama Sean. They will push each other out the way. The teacher has to stop circle time. She has to, because the kids are just going to be like, they're going to beeline straight for me. And I don't take that for granted. I don't take it lightly. And most owners don't get that. I do. And everyone knows Mama Sean loves her kids and the kids love me. And I am proud of that. I take it like they're my own children, like I birthed them. But I capture those moments, and the parents love that for us. They were like, there were some times we were worried, and I was like, there's nothing to worry about. And they said, we know that. We know there's nothing to worry about. We get that. We 100% get that.
And isn't that amazing that they can go and do what they need to do for their family,
Yes.
not feel guilty,
Yep.
and not be worried,
Yes.
and know that their child is in a loving place where they're safe physically, but they
Yeah.
also have a safe space to be who they are.
And it's funny that you mentioned that we have 3 new children start this week. Thank the Lord for that, because woo. And one of them is their Spanish speaking family only. So San Antonio is 2 hours from the Mexican border. So we have a lot. I mean, that's, we're inundated, and that's the culture that is around, and we love that. So this child is Spanish speaking only, but mom wants him to learn English. So his first day was Wednesday. And this is how I knew. I was like, okay, we are most definitely doing something right. My teacher, his teacher, updated through ProCare. She didn't call, she didn't message, she didn't do any communication back to us about his day. And when my teacher, at the end of the day, when he was going home, and mom was like, oh, I saw it in the ProCare. That's all I needed to see. I was good with that. That's all I needed to see. And to me, I'm just like, wow, your child's first day in a center where we do not speak, my other teachers do, I don't. He does have support for his home language, which we don't ever want to negate.
No, yeah.
but she didn't have to call. She didn't have to call. She didn't have to check in. We checked in enough where she was happy with that. She never responded to the messages, never responded to the pictures, but she hearted them. That's all she needed. That right there. And we weren't her first choice. We weren't her only choice. That right there. And she's like, I love how small it is. I love that y'all can give that attention. And that's one thing that means more to me than having numbers and all that extra stuff. That's the quality that people miss out on, right? We're big on numbers. We're big on, I need this capacity, I need this room filled, I need this room filled. But what about the quality that that small space can give that one child? People don't think, business owners don't think about that because that's not their focus. For me, I'm stuck in between business owner and educator because I was a teacher first. So I'm big on quality. I'm big on creating those moments that in a room of 15 3-year-olds, I might not catch, but in a room of 4 3-year-olds, I'm bound to catch something that day. Yeah. So that means more to me than anything.
Oh, and I think that philosophy, it is so important. But I think what I hear mostly is that the program that you offer is child-driven, child-led.
Yes, ma'am.
And teachers are there to support them wherever they are.
Ma'am.
And the relationship with families is trusting and supportive.
Yes.
And that is quality. That's it. That's it. Because
but you know what, Miss Deb, and I'm glad you said that. We're a different breed when it comes to quality star ratings and stuff. I'm different with that. And I'm different with that because I don't need someone who's never stepped in a classroom to tell me what quality is. If you've never been in here, you have no idea. I don't have to label, I don't have to post all these things in my room because that could overwhelm a child, which that's a whole nother topic. It could overwhelm a child, but I have to label everything in Spanish and English. And for me, I have a sensory overload at times. So if there's a lot going on, I'm going to shut down. So I don't necessarily agree with quality ratings because the quality is in what I make my program based on my customers, which are the children. If the children are learning and enjoying and happy, isn't that what quality is?
So, and I want to address that because I agree with you, especially since we sort of gone off the rails. We sort of gone over the top, off the rails. And this is from a person who ran a quality rating and improvement system in Pennsylvania for 4.5 years. That we are able through a quality rating and improvement system is baby steps people when we were doing it to baby step people into improving maybe the materials or maybe the daily schedule so it's not so teacher driven. Right. That I think that coaching I think is really, really important. Yes. But it's not check the boxes.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you're done. It's all day, every day, whether the assessor is there or not. And then even though hand washing is very important, if you were to get, let's say, a 7 on the Eckert or on the family child care environment rating scale, your children will be doing nothing but washing their hands all day. So so sometimes people want to achieve the highest score, but don't recognize what they're doing to development, right? So,
yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And so I agree with you. And now, unfortunately, in some cases, the quality rating and improvement systems are just a checklist,
Yes.
So, so people want to get the 7 or want to get whatever the highest rating is. Instead of saying, even when I was a teacher, I was a toddler teacher, a preschool teacher, a kindergarten teacher, a before and after school teacher. And it would be hysterical. People would say, well, they didn't wash their hands when they came in from the playground. This is like preschool. And I said, because they're coming to a mandatory circle. The morning circle is if you come, fine. If you don't come, that's fine. But before lunch, it's a mandatory circle so that we can finish setting up lunch and kids can release from the circle to go wash their hands and sit
Right.
at the lunch table, right? So they're not standing in line for 25 minutes to wash their
Right.
hands. And
Yeah.
people would say, well, you would score a 1 on the environment rating scale. And I said, that's fine because I'll score a 7 on curriculum, on interactions, on activities that are building children's development instead of
Yep.
worksheets, right?
Right.
It I and I said what's important is that we wash their hands before they ate. They wash their hands after they went to the bathroom. I put a teaspoon of bleach in the water table so they didn't have to wash their hands after they played in the water. So
Yeah.
because it was crazy, crazy, and so sometimes I think we have to be perfect,
Yes.
and we want those higher scores so that we're able then to get maybe a higher reimbursement rate or something. And I
Yes.
get all that financial piece I get,
Yeah.
because we don't make enough money and
Right.
people don't recognize how expensive it is to
Yeah. Yeah.
operate a child development program. But sometimes I think we try to achieve those goals and we're not focusing on the child. Instead, we're focusing on the rating.
Yes.
People, I mean, if you were to follow some of them now, and they're much worse than when I was running one, they're so academically focused. You need to have this much time and literacy, and that's ridiculous.
It is. And something that you just said, and because I had to have this fight with my old inspector, one of my teachers had just got through changing a diaper or something, and one of the kids, she put the child down and the child ran out of the little gated area, still in the same classroom. And the inspector was about to notate that she did not wash her hands. And so I was like, well, she just got down and took off. There is no length of time in the minimum standards that says from the time the diaper changing is officially finished, that you've got to have 5 minutes to get them to wash their hands. And so she was about to cite us for that. I was like, no, we're not doing that. She did end up washing the child's hand, just not when you were ready for her to. She washed her hands within 3 minutes. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
And you said about perfection, and that just grinds my gears. Oh my goodness, because I'm like, y'all are really poking. You're really reaching. And if childcare owners start fighting back, y'all are not going to have a job. So because we're trying to create a safe space, that child is not going to die waiting 3 minutes to wash their hands. No. You might feel some kind of way, Mr. and Mrs. Inspector, because you're trying to get those quotas of collecting deficiencies. So I 100% agree with what you just.
That is so true. And it's not because they're mean people, but it's because if you're like, for example, when long ago, before the environment rating scale went through a couple of its renditions, and I'm not saying that what Thelma Harms and Debbie did, and Richard did, is bad.
Right.
But I think what people did is they took that research and they've implemented it poorly, right? And I tell people all the time, in an environment rating scale, you're not going to get 7s in everything. So let it go, right?
Yeah.
Let it go. Because you can get 7s, I hope, in building relationships and in being responsive to children and in having enough materials and in, and in creating a space where children are free to explore and play.
Yes.
But you're not, but what people then do is put on the lens of the regulator, who may or may not have any understanding or education. They're well educated, but they don't know development, right? So they may not have any early childhood development. So it would be funny with licensing and I love my licensing people, they were great, but we would sometimes argue. They would say, well, I didn't see this. And I said, or I'm going to cite you for this. And I'd say, that's not a rule.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And
Mhm.
they would say, well, of course it is. And I'd say, show me where
Yeah.
that is. And then
Yes.
they would,
Yes.
going through the licensing manual and they're like, oh my God. I said, yeah,
It's
it's not a
not.
rule.
Mhm. One
And
of the
so
things,
just erase
yeah,
that little mark, right?
yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah,
wasn't done, I didn't like scream at them for
right.
citing me, but I said, that's not a rule.
Fought
I
for
know
it.
the rule. And and they would go, oh my God, I
Yeah.
got to go back and look. I think I've cited 4 other people this week for that. And I said, I know, because you're human. And
Mhm.
that's sometimes it's their interpretation of the rule. I'd say it's not what the rule says. The rule says this.
Very
And
subjective. Yeah.
yeah, it's very subjective. And because they're human, right?
Yeah.
So
You
it's just,
know,
you just
and
have to
if
have
and
courage
when
to.
we yeah, and when we first started our program, we let the children take their shoes off. Like my philosophy on them learning was, hey, we had a big dry erase board, and we in our infant area, which is gated, we would have dry erase board. We have dry erase boards to cover the slit, so hands wouldn't get smushed or whatever. And so the kids could always write on the board. Well, we have the board on the gate, boards on the wall, so we let the children write on the walls, and we let them lay down and learn. We
Mhm.
let them lay, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, they need to. No, they don't, because you're assuming based on science that this is how they learn. Why don't you ask John, me, Karen, Kathy, not that we want to give them choices on everything, right? Because, we are the adults, so we have
Sometimes,
that rule
yeah.
to follow.
Sometimes we have to have rules.
Yes, but at the same time, if I know the kind of learner I am, and so that's why school was hard for me. No one took the time to understand. Well, Reshaun doesn't learn like that. She needs a kinesthetic point of view. She needs a kinesthetic and hands-on point of view.
Mhm.
Didn't learn that until I was in high school, and so I know for the kids, it's the same philosophy. We're gonna lay down. You've got your dry erase board. What do you think this means? And so we're asking those questions from their perspective. And every question will always be right, because we don't want them to feel like, they didn't do it right, and showing them a different way. So we let them take off their shoes, and we got, cited one time, and I was like, well, it's not in the standards. I didn't find out till later. And I didn't learn how to fight for things until after I got burned, and it was too late to fight for it. And I was like, oh, but you best believe I'm going to be paying close attention to you now. And so, we have inspectors that have never worked in childcare centers. They don't understand that this toy does belong in the infant room, though in your mind, you think it does not. Oh, it does. And guess what? It says so on the tag.
Mhm.
So, trying to explain, that's why I love IPA, because we understand what play looks like, and we have to explain it to everybody. No, the kids played all day. Well, what did they learn? They played. But what did they learn? They played today. Then we got to sit and explain what that looked like, what that
Mhm.
meant, what that means. And they're like, well, okay. And I'm like, well, you stick to what you do. And
Mhm.
my kids walk away leaders. They walk away, with thoughts and ideas, because I'm after their social and emotional. That's what we focus on, is their social and emotional. And our parents love that, because they walk away responsible. They go into the school districts knowing how to have conversations, knowing how to express themselves. And my my the old parents would be like, we should have just kept the kids with Mama Sean, because I'm like, what did they do? What did they do to my kids? My kids come back, they've got all these disabilities and issues, and I'm like, what happened? What did the school district do to my babies? But I know what I put into them, and their parents know it too.
Yeah. And so that be following the child's lead, helping to scaffold them
Yes.
when they're ready, not trying to push down stuff their little brains aren't ready for. And
Yeah.
if you look in the white paper, Rashawn, have you seen the white paper yet?
I have. Yes, madam
So if you go and read Bethine Edwards'
Okay.
white paper on play schemas in the toddler room,
Ooh.
you will be amazed, because play schemas, even though we know Piaget and
Yeah.
we know the 4 developmental levels that Piaget has described for us, there's a deeper understanding of what Piaget was trying to teach us. And when you begin to recognize that the behaviors as teachers, not you, Reshaun, but as
Right. Yeah.
teachers, in a older infant room or a toddler room or a preschool room, and begin to look at those schemas, you can say to a parent, oh, they've just developed the transportation schema. Or and so when they're home and they're moving you know how teachers say you can't move anything from one center to another. Well, that's
Right.
ridiculous, because that's not how kids learn, right? They need to
Yeah.
know how this over here works over here.
Yeah.
Or if they are really interested in climbing and
Yeah. Yeah.
and trying to redo things over and over again, there's all these schemas that
Yes.
that describe the development
Yeah.
that is happening for them,
Yeah.
that they're going to build on, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's the play schemas in infancy, toddlerhood, and young preschoolers, and 4-year-olds do it. They just do it at a higher level because they built on prior knowledge. And
Right.
so Bethine Edwards, those of you who don't know about the white paper, it is amazing. So and IPA just sent out a call for papers, and these absolutely incredible people
Nice.
responded with unbelievably rich things
Oh,
that you
very
can
nice.
to educate parents. So you go to IPAUSA.org/white paper, and it'll come up. And definitely go and read Bethine Edwards. You can go to the table of contents. You can look for Bethine Edwards, and you can click right on her article. It's amazing. All of them are amazing. There are 47 of them. The whole thing is like 600 and some pages
It
long.
is pretty big. Yes.
It's big. But now you can just go straight to the table of contents, click on it. It'll take you to the article. You read the article, and then there's a button that takes you right back to the table of contents. So it's so much easier to navigate now. And
Something you just said just blew my mind though. And when I train and tell other educators about this, they're just like, oh. And I would tell them something you just said about the schemas and about what it allows the child to do. And I think about, I'm going to go back and read her paper, but I think about how risky, and I don't mean risky as in unsafe. Right. I mean risky from the standpoint of it fosters challenges and creativity that most educators, I know down here in San Antonio, I'm so like, oh my gosh, I'm like, you guys are stifling what you could do. You are stifling yeah, in a safe space, I would love to be able to, sounds terrible, to introduce fire to my kids, right? And not so much just fire of what it can do in lieu of what just happened, but the positive that it does. It keeps us warm. Look how the ambers glow, and look at the colors, and look at how it moves, all those different things. And I know in other countries, they have that amazing opportunity.
They have those amazing opportunities in nature-based programs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, in the forest preschools,
yeah,
almost always.
Yes, so and that is amazing.
It is those things, and what I try to help people understand is when you do that, what are you preventing the child from developing, right?
Yes.
Because here's what they need.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you say, you're going to sit and circle crisscross applesauce, I just want to cringe.
I know.
And because I couldn't sit crisscross applesauce even when I was 4, right? Mm-hmm. It's just physically I could not.
Right.
And so if that's the rule, and I'm so uncomfortable when I'm sitting there, I'm not going to listen to the story or sing the song. I'm comfortable. And so I should be able to sit however it makes me comfortable.
Right.
Not how you are imposing me to sit.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Some things that we do, because sometimes I think we feel like we have to do what people tell us to do in certain situations.
Yeah.
No child should be forced to sit crisscross applesauce. Sit where you're comfortable. If you're on your belly, fine. You're not kicking your neighbor.
Yeah.
If you're sitting with your legs out in front of you, then that's what's comfortable for you. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's just sometimes I think we just go crazy because
Oh,
we feel like we have to, when the teacher or the principal or the director puts their head in the door,
yeah,
we want them to look like we're in charge. Well, you're never in charge. So,
right.
they outnumber you. It,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so much less chaotic if you just follow their lead instead of expecting them to.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, putting those boundaries, right? If you, because when people outside of the industry put kids in charge, we're like, no, we're not just giving them full reign and control to do whatever they want to do. We have healthy, I only have two rules in my program. We show love and kindness, and we show love and we show kindness. Those are my only two rules, right? That encompasses so much. I don't need to give this dissertation about we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do and I teach them and we demonstrate love and kindness. If they learn anything else, it's just because it comes naturally to them, or something that they learn at home. And I let their parents know, I know they didn't get that from me. They got that from their bio mom. And they just start laughing because they know what I believe and how I treat and love their child. So two rules is all you need. And that will, and imagine if the whole world would just have two rules. We
Oh my
show
goodness.
love and we show kindness.
So we had three rules, and I'll tell you what
Okay.
my three rules were. We keep our friends safe,
Yes. Okay.
we keep our things safe, and we keep ourselves safe.
Oh, yeah. I love
And
that.
so those three, so they'd be doing something that was crazy. And I would say, what just happened?
Mm.
And the 4-year-olds would say, I broke a rule. I said, well, what rule did you break? And they said, I didn't keep our things safe. And I said, okay, so how can we do better tomorrow? Right.
Yeah.
So it was so easy. Kindergarten, they had three rules: keep yourself safe, keep our things safe, keep your friends safe. That was it.
Love that.
It encompasses everything.
Yeah, it sure
So,
does. It does. But
Rashawn, go
I'm sorry.
ahead. And then
I
I'm
know
going to wrap this
I'm,
up.
I'm enjoying this so much, but it would just be nice if ECE would be on the same page when it came to play and exploration of creativity versus I got to stay in my lane. I have to do it this way. I have to be this. I have to always be. And I'm like, no, it's okay. And it took me, I'm a germaphobe and I don't like outside. I cannot stand outside unless it's Disney and a couple other small spaces. But I just don't like outside. I get, from a child. But I also know that I don't let that hinder when the kids need to learn. I might
Mhm.
not do it, but that doesn't mean I would not encourage someone else to do it, or even bring outside inside, whatever that looks like think outside the box. And a lot of
Mhm.
people just will not. And I'm just like, you are stifling your kids.
Well, and here's the thing they're doing is they're making their job miserable.
Yeah.
So if you think about in the responsive classroom, which is what you start in kindergarten, is how I did my kindergarten. It's a well research based approach. It is kindness, respect, cooperation with everyone, and the teacher is respectful of where the child is and what the child is interested in doing, and there's choice, and there's opportunities to develop agency and opportunities to be supportive of each other in the responsive classroom. So if you don't know about that, you need to go there. It's not for
Yeah.
preschoolers, but it goes all the way through high school.
Love.
It's truly amazing. It's a democratic classroom,
Mhm.
and nobody seldom are children in large groups. It's phenomenal. And when I talk to people about the things that they feel like they have to be and do to be seen as a teacher,
Mhm.
and I tell them, but if your teaching isn't fostering development, then are you really a professional, right? Because our profession is child development,
That's
not
right.
pushing down curriculum and trying to get them to read when they're 4,
Yeah.
which is not going to happen unless they are in a very small percentage of
Yes.
children. So, I just want you to be, and one of the books in the responsive classroom where I was going is The Joyful Classroom. So if you can, if you can say in your classroom, I'm exhausted by the end of the day because I feel like I had to control children all day, then you're not approaching your
Right.
classroom the way you need to. You should feel joyful in children's development.
Absolutely.
They should feel joyful to be there and be respected and loved.
Yeah.
And so we have to sort of change from getting them ready. And I need to be accountable for these stupid standards to, I need to focus on where this child is developmentally and help them.
Yep.
And play is what does it. So
Right.
it is that shift. We have to shift our mindset from forget the canned curriculum and forget, what people are telling you you should be doing, and do what you know you should be doing.
Right.
Which is following children's lead, scaffolding development, providing a rich, safe, wonderful space to explore.
Yeah.
That's what kids need. And it will be amazing what happens in their development if you just do that. All right, so I'm going to close this out. Reshaun, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you back.
Welcome. Yeah, I would love to come back.
Of course, I would love to have you back. So to learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.